Good afternoon, everybody. It's Mike. It is Sunday, the 19th of April. This is your week ahead video. No time for charts today, so let's put out this for free. Quick reminder here, I'm going to be taking vacation at the end of this week and be gone for a little bit. So, you guys will be well taken care of in the room by Chris, other than Friday, which you guys are going to have to fend for yourselves. All right, let's talk about what's going on here. This was going into this week, and there's been a lot of chatter and back and forth and this and that over the weekend. And bottom line, the straits are open, the straits are closed. This, that, the other thing, the market seems to be shrugging it off. And if you look at pre-market futures here, they're really not down all that much. From an economic standpoint, this week we enter into the Fed blackout period. Fed is cannot speak now for the next 2 weeks. The Fed decision will be a week from this upcoming Wednesday. And we have very little economic data coming at us. We do have retail sales on Tuesday morning pre-market. We have PMI flash composite on Thursday and Michigan consumer sentiment and inflation expectations, which we get every 2 weeks on Friday. That said, the big driving force in this market is going to be earnings, I think, at this point moving forward, barring some horrific turn of events that takes place over in the Middle East or elsewhere. And, this week earnings kicks up a notch. Last week's was about the bank to banks. We'll talk about that more in a minute. This week, we got to get a little bit more of everything here. So Monday, you got these SDLD names like that in there, but really Tuesday morning, things kick up. United Healthcare, GE, Raytheon, 3M, Northrop Grumman, Halliburton. Very interested what Halliburton says specifically. After the close, you got United Airlines on Wednesday morning, VRT, GE, Verona, Boeing, which I'm really want to hear about, and then of course AT&T, and T. And then at night is the big one for the week. You have Tesla, which everybody's going to want to hear. Are they talking more about Cybertrucks? I'm sorry, so robotaxi and robotics, Optimus, or what's going on? Musk may get a question about the SpaceX IPO on the call, assuming he's on there. So Tesla will definitely be the big one there. I do not expect them to beat on earnings because, well, they missed on delivery numbers, but one never knows. Um, ServiceNow, IBM. Now we're going to get our first look at a software clouds company. Be big there with IBM, then LRCX as well. QS for you guys who like the little ones. Thursday morning, American Express, Lockheed Martin, Nano Nuclear Energy, Honeywell's in there, and then Intel, which to me is extremely interesting on Thursday night. They've had this massive run, and can they support that move? We'll talk sentiment going into this week, and this is where things get a little bit dicey and a little bit rough. This market has been on fire. We're going to talk about how the ES is now up 13 days in a row. And, we're getting just completely scorched on overheated. On the NASDAQ, the oscillators plus 388, highest level that we've had in 2 years. Okay, so screaming hot there. On the New York Stock Exchange, just started to touch the hot zone at 206. Your advanced decline lines all continue to curl up. Market breadth highs versus lows here on the S&P 500 plus 152 versus -1. These are very, very good, solid numbers. Look at the NASDAQ here. Not quite the highest reading we've had this year, but look at this, 527 versus -53. You don't get moves up like this and breadth like this and typically get a sudden big downturn. Typically you get a little pullback and then it's higher. Put the call, which has been a horrible indicator for a while with all the zero DTE options. This thing is absolutely bulled up beyond belief, usually a contrarian indicator saying we should get some type of move down or something to take all this over bullishness out of this market. We haven't seen it yet. And if you look at market breadth, just leading up and huge move here on the Nasdaq and the New York Stock Exchange at a new all-time high. All right, so everything looks great. So when we look at what's going on and say, what's bothering me here? Well, here's your ES, and here's this huge move, right? 13 days. The size of this move is just unbelievable on how quickly and how ferocious it's been. And FOMO is real. And what I mean by that is fear of missing out. People are chasing into this market. They're just throwing market money at everything right now. And, it's hard to chase up here. Big funds typically don't want to be buying after moves like this or selling, or, they're looking for dips to buy into. But FOMO can keep going. It's also, some people call this the pain trade, right? Just pain every day is up, up, and up. You're looking for dips or something. Bottom line is we're up, very up high. The Bollinger Bands are screaming higher. And look at this, they're going vertical, parabolic, and the 8 days still, look at how far behind this is dragging. The good news is all the moving averages are turning up. NQ, very similar, new all-time highs there. Crude, got that big down candle here, came back into the 80 area and holding just under 85. We'll see how that responds today. Bonds, not doing much. Gold, not much. Silver, not much. Bitcoin. Bitcoin is trying to break out here, had a nice little move here. This would be something if we can get a breakout on would be really nice. I'm just taking a look at real time. Bitcoin is currently trading back down at the 75 area. Just want to take a quick look at that. So still, we want to hold that 75 breakout. That's the big level to hold for Bitcoin to go. It needs to hold that 75 breakout. Then it's got a lot of room to run. The VIX itself has been completely smashed back down. It's under 18. We talked about getting under 20. It stayed there all week. HYG lagging the market's not as strong. The transport's nice move back up there. And the dollar, which had been the safe haven, has weakened here kind of substantially. So on the SPY, if you're asking me what we're to see this week, I think you just need to be prepared that this market needs to continue to melt up. Personally, we could use some rest. Some inside days would be great. Even a dip down would be fine. You have another, since this big gap and go here and this clear of 660, right? We haven't touched it. Another gap here, another big gap and go here on Friday. The market is just truthfully extended. We were 21 handles off the 8 day. The 8 day is screaming up. Look at how far behind the 21 day is here. So you just extended. A dip and hold of the 8 day would be great. If the 8 day is all the way down here, it's going to rocket up higher on Monday, probably towards the 697 area. We'd like to see this market come in and cool off and digest this a little bit. And that's what we're hoping for. To the upside, your blue skies, we can keep extending quite a bit now. This market has been quiet all year. It's diverged itself. It's detached itself from what's going on over in the Persian Gulf. It no longer cares. It's not longer worried about inflation. Warsh nomination is supposed to happen this week in front of the Senate Banking Committee, but it's doesn't sound like it's going to get through there on the first attempt until there's change, or maybe there's a deal to be made here between Trump and the Republican that's blocking it, and we'll see. But bottom line is the market's not letting anything bother it right now. All right, so where's this leave us for this week? Let's talk the banks first. The banks are, participating but not leading in this. We got the Bank XLF up to the 53 area. KRE also up a little bit, maybe a little stronger, but it's really been mixed bag. Morgan Stanley's been on fire. They like that one. Citigroup's been on fire. They like that one. JP Morgan, not looking great. Bank of America, eh. Wells Fargo, not looking great. Goldman, nothing special here, right? They're really not hiding them. Everybody keeps asking me, Mike, SoFi. Yeah, it's off the lows, but it's not leading. There's nothing really powerful going on here. But it is back up to 20, and from off that lows of 15 area, that's a sizable little move percentage wise. I got 2 weeks to earnings there. Bottom line is, they're not really piling into the banks right now. Crypto names, we talked about these. Keep an eye on names like Mara, Riot, right? They're trying to wake up here. We haven't seen these move in a while. Point had a very nice move here on Friday, trying to break this range, there we go, trying to break above this 213 area, couldn't hold it into the close, but tried to get through there. So overall, trying to wake up. We saw big time option flow into MSTR on Friday, pushed all the way up to the 100-day. This is the first sustained move this name has seen in a while. BMNR, similar. BMNR, one of those days, it's not moving and not partaking in this. Let's talk Hood. A lot of people want me to talk Hood all the time. Mike, what's wrong with Hood? What's wrong with Hood? The other day we're talking Hood can go down to the 50s last week when we did charts, but overall it's now rebounded up nicely here. Is the low in for Hood? Yeah, it could be. This could be it here. This could be the low, and it could be one to push up. You have two big gap and goes here in last week, and that's showing some power to it, some commitment. Got to get above your 100-day moving average here now at the 96 area. Then we can see if we can start going to reclaim that 200-day. What else? IGV and software. This has been a section we've been talking about at length every day. 88 is the big level to clear. It came very nicely off the lows, but not leading the markets, right? While the markets raged, this came slowly off the lows and has not bounced as much. And a lot of it was on the back of Oracle. If you look at IGV and Oracle, that move looks very identical. And Microsoft, Microsoft all the way to the 100-day here, week and a half ahead of earnings. If this pops, watch that gap sitting up there at 442.50. That's my guess where it might try to get to. The rest of the sector is looking names like Snow and Salesforce. None of these names, Adobe, are looking all that great. We know we have ServiceNow this week. None of these looking great. Palantir is somewhere in the middle, above the 50-day, but not leading. Again, they're not piling into this sector yet. And maybe it's going to take a couple of earnings from these names to convince them that everything is okay. But that's the sector I really want to keep an eye on this week to see if they try to front run that. Let's talk semis. The SMHs have been the lifeblood of this market off this bounce and lead. They never got anywhere near as weak as the rest of the market. Look, and never got down to the 200-day new all-time highs every day last week and for the last, actually the last 2 weeks, and just continues to be on fire here with another big gap and go. Micron put in, just missed the all-time high here on Friday, did put it in pre-market. You know, these memory names, these storage names, Western Digital, SanDisk continue just to lead and be incredibly strong. Intel is going to report this week. Again, this huge move up here to a multi-year high. I mean, this is a move from, from $40 to $70. Almost, what, 80% move here on this one for no real good reason here. Boy, this is going to have to be one hell of a report coming up here on Thursday. AMD broke out to a new all-time high. That was a monster move here. It's extended. I'd like to see it digest. I'm sitting in some NVIDIA calls, and NVIDIA's had a nice move, but man, it's just shy of that all-time high. That all-time high on this one is at 212 and change, if I remember correctly. 212.19. So, that's the next big level we're looking for. There is a gap at 203.97, so keep that in mind. I like the way this one looks overall, looking good. We'll see where it goes from here. Names like Marble have run a ton of new all-time highs. Um, AMAT, nice move there, just off the all-time highs. And Avgo has woken up in a big way and is just shy of those all-time highs. So you just see these big moves here on these companies, and this has been the leadership. So watch them. If the leaders lead, if they can't lead, then we have, they need to rotate, and that's what we're going to be watching for. Do we see any kind of sector rotation coming up here? We take that aside, we'll go to the big mega cap names, and we'll start off with Amazon, which Amazon is looking very, very good here. That report from back here, just that their AI business was $15 billion in the first quarter and accelerating rapidly, and that's what they needed to hear. To me, I'm still long. I uncovered it. I think I'm out of my calls for now. I have to go double check, but I think I'm out of my call. I know if I do, I have one left, a small one left. 258, 60, your all-time high there. I'm looking for a move up to that, and then we'll see. Meta has also woken up here, not leading quite as much, but a huge move off the lows from 520 all the way up into the 690 area. Very sizable move here. If it wants to pop some more, I would look for it to come up here and test this high up here around the 710 area this week. Apple also long some calls here. Why? Well, this one could play catch up. Beautiful hold of the 200-day has curled back up, and heading for that 280 area would be my next big target. And then just your all-time high at 288.62 with earnings coming into this one next Thursday. So, you look around, a lot of these names are just looking much stronger, just looking absolutely much stronger here after everything. Google, another one, nice big move here up to 349 would be your all-time high, and it's almost back there. So, I mean, I think, a lot of these names are going to play this rotation game. We played this game, okay, play this name for a couple days, we'll move on. We'll move this name for a couple days, and we'll move on. And they can keep this up for quite some time and keep the markets going. I know you guys keep asking me about China plays and China plays. I just, there's better names for me to trade than to get involved in something that trades overnight, gaps all over the place, and I just have very little interest in it to me. So that said, we'll see what we get this week. I'm hoping for a little rest and just names. And really what I'm looking at is just names to play. Earnings are going to provide momentum in either direction. And that's what we're looking for is momentum. Remember, good earnings from a couple names in the right sectors could ignite the entire sector and get everything moving and run into earnings. And that's something we'll watch. Also the opposite, right? A bad earnings on it in a name like in a software name, if now really is horrible earnings and they don't like it, that whole sector can come running back in. So I'm kind of staying on the sidelines other than day trading some of these names like Oracle and IGV for now. I have not bought or added to any of my positions in that space, but I'm watching carefully. Did add some more crypto last week. Did sell my CRDO last week after a 50% pop in 2 days. Took it, and I'll catch you guys in the room. Link in description below if you want to join us tomorrow morning. Let's have a fabulous week trading.